Welcome back to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. This is the Bash in Berlin review. WWE done one of their new PLE premium live events this past weekend, this past Saturday, over in Germany, in Berlin, of course, hence the name of the pay-per-view, guys. We're gonna get into the results and the ramifications of results. There was new champions crowned. Quite a good bit of stuff went on, and I think sometimes people have kind of not been too overly happy with this pay-per-view. I thought the show was solid. It was solid, maybe not spectacular, but every match was definitely a 7, 8 out of 10, in my opinion, anyway, that went on this card. So, you're not going to get, not every pay-per-view is going to blow you away and be amazing, but in terms of getting to the point of some stories and moving some on and getting clear winners, then I think this has absolutely done its job in terms of a pay-per-view show, or PLE show, as they call them now. But look, they opened up with Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens, and they had a 25-minute, really good storytelling, really good wrestling involved in this. Cody and Kevin are two absolutely solid workers when it comes to wrestling. And it was a thoroughly enjoyable 25-minute match. You knew, I think the point of this story was not whether Kevin Owens was going to win the heavyweight championship or the undisputed championship, whatever you want to call it, but it was probably going to be along the lines of whether or not Kevin Owens was going to turn on Cody Rhodes during that period of time, or during this match. That was where I think it was leading towards. And there was, Cody was playing on the knee a little bit. They had this point of the match where Cody went for a cutter off the top, couldn't do it because his knee gave way, went to the outside, and Kevin Owens had the opportunity to basically take Cody out with his knee. He didn't do it. Bad news Barrett on commentary even made a point and said, "Where's your killer instinct?" And Kevin Owens went, "Shut up, idiot." So it was all around Kevin, I suppose, not pulling the trigger when he had the opportunity to. And that led ultimately to his demise, because Cody Rhodes did indeed go on and pick up the victory in this match with the crossroads. They embraced at the end. Kevin was still a little bit, there was that moment when you're thinking, is he going to do it? You were kind of like, guessing whether he was going to do it or not. But he didn't. He did hug Cody. He didn't want Cody to raise his hand. He wanted to raise Cody's hand. That was the ending of the match. What goes on from here? Kevin Owens, I'm not really sure of. We know that contractually that it's due up. He's been quite vocal saying his contract is due up with the WWE pretty soon. It's a difficult one. We've talked about this. Been on SmackDown. He has been a part of the Bloodline stuff, but that can get very stagnated if it's the same people. Kevin Owens, I'm not quite sure where he does go from here, and whether or not his future even is in the WWE. That is up for debate for sure. Cody, on the other hand, we do know that Solo Sikoa had already called out the winner of this match for the World Championship. So will that be Solo Sikoa? Will it be somebody else? But Cody's immediate future seems to be back in with the Bloodline. We do know not this week on SmackDown, next week on SmackDown, on the season premiere on the USA Network, by the way. SmackDown will move channels over in America in 2 weeks' time. Roman Reigns is due. I think The Rock is even due back then as well. So maybe this week's SmackDown might have a little bit of filler while we move to the season premiere next week, which I'm assuming is going to be a hell of a show on the USA networks. And perhaps, and I think me and Andy spoke about this at the start of the year when we knew that SmackDown was moving. And I mentioned this past week that the SmackDown shows have been quite, unspectacular as such. And perhaps that's got to do with the move for the USA. Were they just going through the motions to get to September the 15th or 16th, whenever it is, to get to the new network before they kick everything off and SmackDown becomes massive again, like it has been over the last few years. There is an argument for that to be had, and I would wonder, yeah, I do wonder whether that is the case. We will have to wait and see. But Cody Rhodes does beat Kevin Owens and seemingly going on the crash course back to Solo Sikoa. We will see. Women's tag team match was next. The Unholy Union, Alba Fire, Isla Dawn, Jade Cargill, Bianca Belair. The Unholy Union winning the championships over in Scotland. Clash at the Castle 2. Not too long ago now, a good couple of months ago, they won it in Scotland. Bianca Belair, they won it off Bianca and Jade, albeit there was a third team, Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler maybe in that as well. And they did pin them. They didn't pin Bianca or Jade in that match, the triple threat match, to win the championship. So they had their rematch. At Bash at Berlin this week, and they had actually really good rematch. Alba Fire and Isla Dawn are two great competitors. They are solid competitors in that ring. They can go very, very well and very, very nicely. So I'm a very big fan of those two. Bianca and Jade. Jade, this is obviously Jade being paired with Bianca is a clear thing to get Jade up to speed with the WWE way. Remember, she bypassed NXT and come straight to the main roster. So she's learning under the tutelage of the Bianca Belair. It's a safe bet to put her there. The assumption will be maybe come WrestleMania time that it could well end up being the EST of the WWE versus Jade Cargill. In a match that we'd probably all want to see. To be fair, this tag team match was around 12 minutes long. It was a good tag team match. There was times where Bianca was getting the punishment and she made the hot tag to Jade, as you could imagine. And it turns out that Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill did indeed pick up the victory and reclaim the tag team championships that they lost at Clash at the Castle. I'm not quite. I, I don't know. The tag division, women's wise, is always a difficult one because there's a severe lack of women's tag teams that there is, and you end up getting like the pure fusion team that they've got on Raw at the moment, where it's already and they've already kind of had their shot, albeit Sonya Deville wasn't part of them at the time. It's a difficult one to see what's next. I mean, you could argue there's a rematch in there. You could put the Pure Fusion Collective or whatever they're called in there as well. It's just a very difficult situation, the women's tag to be in. I'm not sure what's next on this. I could see a rematch happening maybe as early as this Friday on SmackDown. But in terms of, the long-term future of the women's tag teams, I really don't know what could happen or what should happen. We know eventually, I think, as I said, eventually, as we move to WrestleMania, we're going to move into a Bianca Jade program, which I'll be very interested in seeing. Don't get me wrong, but in terms of the sort of more nearer future, I'm not sure what happens here and who really is around to challenge Jade and Bianca, unless two new faces come in, unless some sort of call up from NXT happens. I don't know what would happen with the tag team championships, but the match itself was solid enough, and congratulations to Bianca and Jade for reclaiming the tag team championships. Now, a story that has really been done so well in the WWE. I don't know whether it's culminated. CM Punk seems to think so. Drew McIntyre, CM Punk. It was a good eight. It was an old-fashioned strap match. If you watched wrestling in the 80s, and the strap matches were very keen, very sort of big in those times. The winner of the match had to touch all four corners consecutively with no one stopping them from doing it. It was a 20-minute match. In it, Punk, there was always a thing about can Punk go for a long period of time? Has he got the stamina? Obviously, he's older than what he was 10 or so years ago when he was last in the WWE. I love this. It was a classic old school style match. They beat the piss out of each other as well, which was great. Punk was busted open. I think Drew had a load of strap marks on his back. They both did, I would assume. Really good old school style wrestling match between the two. I thoroughly enjoyed this. Um, and my prediction was right. CM Punk did indeed pick up the victory in this. Now, it is 1-1. The interesting thing was CM Punk had an interview after this match. He won it with four GT. Every time he went to the corner and touched the corner, he ended up hitting a GTS to make sure that Drew didn't power out of it or stop him from pressing a button. They went through stages where even done a classic one where and this took me back to a strap match. I can't remember if it was Brett or somebody was in it. And every time the heel was touching it, the face was touching it as well, but the heel couldn't see it. And I thought maybe Punk was going to sneak one just like that, just like old. For the life of me, I can't remember who it was in the strap match, but it was so well done how the heel was tapping it, and what he couldn't see was the face tapping it, and then the face ended up, I think, jumping over the heel to tap. I'm sure it was Brett or Sean or somebody like that. And I thought they were going to go old school, and that's how Punk was ending up going to win this particular match. But it wasn't. Punk was tapping the corner every time he tapped a corner, hit a GTS, and then went all through all four and ended up picking up the victory. So incidentally, as I was getting to, he did get the bracelet back as well. So the 50 Cent bracelet with Larry and AJ on it is now back in Punk's hands, where he wants it to be. The interesting thing enough about this was after the match, Punk had a backstage interview and exclusive on X or socials, where he basically said now that his feud with Drew is done and he wants the championship. I'm not too sure that that's going to happen. In my opinion, I'm not entirely convinced. I still think um, that Drew and Punk has won more. I think we all know the kind of route that we're going. The next pay-per-view, Bad Blood in October. We're probably, I kind of think we're going towards the Hell in the Cell. I know Punk said he didn't want it, a Hell in a Cell with Drew. He doesn't want a Hell in a Cell match, full stop. But my conscience is saying, and my feelings are saying, that's where they're going to go. Something will go down tonight on Raw that will kind of keep it bubbling away and keep it going towards Hell in a Cell. Should he not do that, and Punk wants the championship, we'll get into who the champion is in a minute. I think it may be too early for that particular match, and we'll get into who's Punk who's talking about in a second. I think that match would be a little bit too early for Punk and too early for the champion. Um, so yeah, the unless it happens and Drew costs Punk the championship, which then sets up the Hell in a Cell at Bad. My gut is saying that Punk and Drew are not finished entirely and that it will go to Hell in a Cell. So either Punk does get a shot, Drew costs him, that leads to Hell in a Cell, or something happens on Raw which keeps Punk and Drew going. I don't mind seeing it again. I think the work throughout the whole of this story has been fabulous by Punk, has been great by Drew. Two guys that know exactly what they're doing when it comes to work on the mic, work on socials. The matches that they've had have both been good, although Seth was the referee at SummerSlam, but they have both been very good. I've thoroughly enjoyed watching this feud, and I wouldn't mind just the rubber match. We've had one each. There's been two. It's 1-1. We need one more, in my opinion, to get to the kind of rubber, and then that is feud over at that point. Would I think that's better. As it's 1-1, it's a little bit difficult to say it's feud over, but we could be wrong. We'll have to find out, and we probably won't take long to find out because it will be as soon as probably tonight on Monday Night Raw that we will find out what's going on there. Just a bit more warning that this is only a 5-match card, by the way. WWE are focusing their PLEs more on, I don't say quality over quantity, because that you people can take that out of context and saying, oh, he's shitting on AEW because AEW have 10 matches a show. But they're basically doing the matches where they all get a nice amount of time. There isn't a rush or some of these matches that you do get sometimes where you think, oh, that was a bit quick, and then you realize there's 7 other matches still to come. So they're doing a 5 This one was 5 matches, but every match was over sort of 10, 15, well, actually like 15 minutes minimum. There was the main event was 35. Punk, for example, went 20. First match was 25. So, you're getting the gist of what I'm saying here. They're giving each match an abundance of time, which in my view enhances match quality and storytelling because you're not in a big rush to cram everything into like a 6 minute match, So the PLEs are doing good. I'm enjoying the PLEs for the matter that everything's getting the time than it needs to get. And I think that tells a better story. It provides a better match. There's not a lot of rushing involved. Now we know matches even I think even at WrestleMania maybe even being cut due to matches. We saw it All In as well. There was matches that had to be had to be cut off because things going over. So I think the smaller cards but the lengthier matches work better for me personally. Doesn't mean to say it works better for you guys listening or watching, but that's just my personal preference. Anyway, Terror Twins, Damian Priest, Rhea Ripley, Judgment Day, Dominic and Liv, mixed tag match. This had an abundance of story behind it. We know way, way, way back, the Liv Morgan Revenge Tour started. She was going to take everything from Rhea Ripley from the inside out, starting with the championship. She'd done that, and then she turned the Judgment Day as well. Dominic Mysterio being one of them, Finn Balor, JD McDonough, and Carlito being the others. They turned them away, turned them all against that, and ended up being Damian Priest as well on that as well. Let's not forget that Damian Priest, Finn turned on Damian as well at SummerSlam, and it culminated there. That's where it hit the peak, and now we're getting into the back end of it. And this match, 15 minutes long, it's kind of about initially kind of Liv and Rhea, and was there going to be a bit where Liv and Dominic get at it, and they did during the match. Rhea did get her hands on Dominic. The crowd loved it. There was a little bit of Dominic not wanting to get anywhere near Rhea at this as well. It was such a great match for that reason. There was a great story behind it. The story in the ring was all about Rhea, kind of about Rhea. Damien was in, I'm not saying Damien's been left out because but he wasn't screwed by that members of the Judgment Day as such. It was more Finn, if you remember correctly. But ultimately, the Judgment Day culminated together, and Rhea and Damien were out of it. They did try and get involved. Judgment Day in this match as well didn't quite go the way that they wanted it to. The result didn't go the way they wanted to because they did end up losing this match via, I think it was both of them hitting their finishes on Dominic and Liv. Now, where does this go from here? Now, my belief is that I kind of think Damien needs to switch hairs here and go for Finn. That's kind of where the problem is with Damien. Damien and Finn were the two that had the issue. It was Finn Balor that cost Damien Priest his world heavyweight championship. The victory, really, if you remember, he moved Gunther's foot on the rope when the referee was counting at SummerSlam. And that basically ultimately ended up costing Damien Priest his world heavyweight championship. Rhea and Liv, there's still a story to be told there. Rhea's going to want her shot back at the women's championship. And obviously, Dirty Dom is going to be there as well. So, my prediction going into Bad Blood. Now, we have to remember, Bad Blood is going to follow the same 5 or 6 match card, in my opinion, anyway. But I think Rhea and Liv will go. Damien and Finn will definitely have their match. Would it be a bad? I mean, it fits the Bad Blood for the storyline perspective. It totally fits. The match. Maybe they can do a 6 match card here, and you can have Punk and Drew. You can have yeah, but then you've got the world title as well. So there's a lot to think about whether this will go on Bad Blood, but the assumption will be that it will be Finn and Damien, Rhea versus Liv at some point down the line. One of those will definitely be at Bad Blood, potentially both. We will have to wait and see. We don't have too long. We've got about a 4-week build to Bad Blood. So it's nice. You could end some, you can start some as well. Will they ever go back? And this is a question just quickly before we get to the main event. Will they ever go back to having Raw branded, SmackDown branded PLEs where it's just those brands? I remember back in the when they used to do that, SmackDowns used to be generally quite weak until you got higher up the card because SmackDown wasn't live, it was taped back in those days. So yeah, Raw used to have the better pay-per-views, in my opinion, back then. But whether they'll go back to doing that, I don't know. Because having 5 or 6 matches on the card and you've got two rosters to fit on is, you generally do 3-2 or 3-3. And we've already done 3 matches before we've even got to the World Championship match for Bad Blood for the Raw side of things. So it's kind of a little bit difficult to see if they would ever bring, how you'd fit the matches on or whether they would actually bring back the separate branded pay-per-views, which they've got the roster and they've got the quality, I think, to do so nowadays, but I've not heard much. There was a tease about it some time ago, but it kind of fell on deaf ears. It kind of went quiet for a bit. TKO brought it out, so then it was kind of washed away. So we're not sure if that will ever happen, but it could be a time to do it. Maybe next year, who knows? We will wait and see. World Heavyweight Championship, Gunther, Randy Orton, 35 minutes of just wrestling. And if you like this, this went back to King of the Ring, if you remember back in, I think, May or June time. King of the Ring, Gunther won the match with Randy. Randy's shoulder was up during the pinfall. And Triple H did say Randy would get his rematch with Gunther down the road. Gunther went on to win the heavyweight championship at SummerSlam. And then, of course, what happened from there? Well, what happens from there is Randy Orton then gets his shot. The interesting thing is they were on separate brands, and the stipulation was if Orton had won the Raw Heavyweight Championship, he would be transferred to Raw, and Gunther would have gone to SmackDown. So at least the W. Now, I mentioned this on SmackDown. They hadn't mentioned that as far as I was aware. So it was always going towards a Gunther win for me because that was kind of like, well, what would happen? If I'd known that and they had made a better job of, say, putting that out there more, I may have been convinced that perhaps Randy Orton may have gone on to win it. But because I hadn't heard a lot of it until I was reading up on it, I never actually knew that was a possibility. Anyway, moving on, the match itself, as I said, 35 minutes, great wrestling. Exactly what you're going to get with Gunther. I mean, again, a bit like the strap match, they were kicking the shit out of each other. Gunther was chopping the crap. Randy Orton had bulked up to 290 for this match. I think he said he was bulking up for Gunther, and he hit it at 290, and he was looking, very much a very heavier version of Randy Orton than what we normally see. Now, whether or not that's still going to be the case now that this program is probably finished with Gunther, I don't know. But he was heavy. Gunther was heavy. He hit an RKO during this match. He got the quick cover off of it as well. And you're thinking, Jesus, he's going to go and win the match here, and we're going to have a new champion. Gunther did kick out of the RKO that Randy hit. Ultimately, Gunther wins this by technical submission. Orton passed out, I believe, from the sleeper. What a great thing as well, bringing back a sleeper to finish matches off. It was more of a ground sleeper, but still, it's an old school finish. We haven't seen that since the $1 Million Dream from the $1 Million Man. So really good stuff to see an old school finisher get the victories in some of these matches, a bit like NWA, which is really good to see. Gunther winning though. Now we had said before, what's next for the Gunther? Well, CM Punk has kind of already called his shot for the championship, and one would wonder if that's the route they're going to go down or whether there'll be a different route for Gunther coming up. Randy Orton, for me, the next logical thing would have been Cody Rhodes. But obviously now Solo has called his shot. Will they do it now? Will they manage to get Roman in to kind of nullify the Solo thing so Cody can go? And I've already said this for quite a while. Cody lacks a story. Absolutely lacks a storyline as a champion. He's not been in a feud that's really been long enough. He's had a couple of he's had the odd match here and there, but he needs something to captivate the run, and it hasn't happened yet. The bloodline won't really work for me because it's all really about Roman. It's not about Solo chasing the gold. It's about Roman chasing the Ulafala and the tribal chief. That's what that storyline's about, in my opinion. And the bringing together of the OG bloodline. That's my thing. To have Cody in there doesn't make any sense right now. What would make sense right now, in my opinion, is Cody and Randy to get into a long feud, or a good long feud, maybe taking us to the end of the year where it's a student and teacher. Cody was under Randy's wing and they'd done Legacy and all of this stuff, and Cody went off and become this star, and Randy was still here. And it could be about respect to start with. It could lead into a bit of a heel turn for Randy. It could go forward from there. But that's where I think it would be the more mileage in the Cody Rhodes title reign. And I think it would actually kickstart the title reign because it has been lackluster to say the least. Cody Rhodes is, and I think it's due. And again, I put this down to being on SmackDown, the bloodline still being there, and it's been all still focused on them and not really on Cody as much. And so to give Cody a meaningful feud is where I would see the future, and that one is with Randy Orton. With Gunther, does Gunther and Punk make sense? Yes. Will it happen? I'm not sure. We will have to find out, and we should get some answers this week on Monday Night Raw. Bash in Berlin was a good show. As I said, a solid 7.5, pushing 7 3/4 for me. As I said, solid without being spectacular was my result of Bash in Berlin, but still a thoroughly enjoyable PLE. Guys, we was at Rev Pro yesterday. Thank you, Rev Pro, for your hospitality. It was a great, great show. Review shows coming up this week as usual. We've got the NWA, we have Raw, AEW, TNA, everything coming on this week as per usual. Keep it locked at HTT Buckle on YouTube and X, hitting the Turnbuckle Podcast on Instagram. That's where you'll find us. And we'll see you for another episode of the Hitting the Turnbuckle Podcast. But until then, everybody, buckle down, stay safe, and goodbye.